Hi everyone, thank you all for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm sure we'll have a few more people trickle in. My name is Jamie Flood. I am the chair of the DPLA Wikimedia Working Group, and I'm here today with Dominic Byrd-McDevitt, our Director of Community Engagement, and Giovanni, I'm so sorry, Giovanna Fontenelle as the Program Officer for the Wikimedia Foundation, Culture and Heritage. And today we're going to chat about Wikimedia Commons and what do you do now with our presentation. I have thousands of items in Commons. What do I do now? And this picture is you slaying all of your Commons items after this presentation. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Dominic. And I'll quickly remind folks that we're going to talk about updating and improving metadata for Commons uploads, the ones that have gone through the Wikipedia pipeline. And then we'll take a look at projects about how to improve descriptions and captions on pictures, which I'll kind of talk about during my section. We'll explain a little bit about Wikidata and how institutions may want to consider utilizing it. And then Giovanna is going to touch on a couple different projects that are happening with gamifying Wikipedia. And all of it goes back to basically crowdsourcing folks to use our images, and all we have to do is improve the metadata on them. Go ahead, Dominic.
Great. Thanks so much. My name is Dominic Byrd-McDevitt, and I'm the Director of Community Engagement for DPLA. We're doing this a little out of order from usual because I didn't want to introduce Jamie to introduce me, but I'll just also give a little bit of housekeeping at the top. This is a Zoom meeting, not a webinar. There'll be time for discussion at the end. But please feel free to use the chat for any questions. We are recording this session today, but you won't be in the recording if you're not choosing to come off mute. So I've been asked to give a few minutes of introductions just to kind of set the scene for Jamie and Giovanna. This is DPLA. I'm sure most of you are aware, but I want to frame it just by talking about two of DPLA's important roles. One of which is just as a network of libraries that essentially operates as a sort of uh, digital library innovation lab. I like to think of it as. And then, of course, what you're seeing here, which is that DPLA is the national aggregator for digital cultural heritage for the United States. And what that means is that there's a single access point, a single portal for all of those items at DP.LA. What we also mean by that, though, is in addition to the single access point on dp.la, we have an aggregation with a goal of providing access to all of the content that our partners are contributing. And so this is another example of that. This is a Wikipedia article in which the image in the article was uploaded by DPLA, but contributed by the State Library of Ohio through the Ohio Digital Network. So I just wanted to show those essentially two different applications of aggregation. And that's really the big picture with the Wikimedia work that DPLA has developed. So just a quick background of how we got here. This work with Wikimedia project started in 2020 with an initial exploratory grant from the Sloan Foundation, and it's also been supported by the Wikimedia Foundation. And where we are currently is an ongoing additional grant from the Sloan Foundation. And it's important here what we're really building towards is DPLA as a, a central hub of organizing Wikimedia engagement work for cultural heritage institutions nationwide, and to be a support for that um, technically as well as through outreach and education. So I'm going to introduce the Wikimedia pipeline, which is, how we have been moving assets into Wikimedia Commons for our partners. But what we want to do is also talk about going beyond that. Um, the big idea is just, that we are, taking advantage of DPLA's central position as an aggregator to solve a big problem for the whole field at a single place. Because bulk upload of content to Wikimedia Commons is complicated for institutions, especially small institutions, and it's all in line with our um, overall goals of making that content, more discoverable. So this is just some quick stats of what we've done so far. We've uploaded over 7.5 million images to Wikimedia Commons in these last few years, which means the DPLA network is the largest contributor to Wikimedia Commons and makes up over 5% of its content. And as you can see, that encompasses contributions from hundreds of institutions and has generated billions of page views for those institutions. This is just the very simple graphic of what that model looks like, which is DPLA aggregates the data from the institutions. They all still host their own content, so they have to provide to us the location of the actual media file. But with those two pieces, we can do the upload to Wikimedia Commons for institutions that are participating, and those through the editorial processes, those images can make their way into Wikipedia articles. This is just an example showing that there are basic data requirements to be able to participate. And this is not the the webinar where we'll be talking about the participation in the pipeline itself, but there are resources available if you are interested in learning more about participating. Um, and uh, please also uh, join all the future talks in this webinar series. But this is the outcome from the perspective of Wikimedia Commons, which is just, we do an upload, the images appear in a category on Wikimedia Commons, and from that, you can take an image and you can add it to an article. So this is an example from the collections of the Boston Public Library. I want to do quickly just to introduce um, some of the ways in which we are using link data to go beyond just the actual upload and help make these images more discoverable. So I'm going to introduce two new topics, which is Wikidata and structured data on Commons. So if you're not familiar with Wikidata, and just being very brief today, since we're all librarians here, I will just describe it as essentially the authority file for everything. Um, so the idea is that Wikidata is this central place in which all unique entities are described, including everything that has a Wikipedia article, in a machine readable way, very similar to, library metadata. And it's also language neutral. This is, if you go to Wikidata, this is what you'll see. Um, and as I say, it looks very similar to an authority record. There's a label for it, which is multilingual. And then the Item itself is you can think of as just a collection of property and value pairs that's storing pieces of data about that item. These are called statements. They can have references or qualifiers as well, but I won't get too deep into that right now. Essentially, just know this is a way of adding, describing something with linked data. And that leads us to structured data on Commons, which is a way of utilizing the items and properties in Wikidata to describe actual media files that exist in Wikimedia Commons. And so using structured data on Commons, we have been just describing all of the uploads that we've done in this structured data way. So this is an example on the screen of the description field from DPLA of one of the images from our contributors and how it's modeled in structured data in Commons using a property and the structure from Wikidata. And this, I know you may not be able to read everything on the screen, but it's just to show you we can model all of the metadata that we're adding for our uploads in structured data on Commons statements. And so through this, for the 7 million uploads we've done to Wikimedia Commons, we've uploaded tens of millions of structured data statements accompanying those overall. And one important way that we're doing this is also with the help of our Wikimedia Working Group, which has helped us with reconciling entities. In order to do our Wikimedia uploads, we need to know what the Wikidata identifiers are for every institution that we upload the collections for. And also increasingly, we're doing reconciliation of subject terms, which allows us to go from the plain text strings that are in our data and actually be able to upload or to be able to add that as linked data with those terms reconciled with Wikidata items. All of which is to say, you're the work of the all of the staff involved at every step of the way, not just adding images into Wikipedia articles, but also the the intellectual labor involved in describing these items and maybe doing remediation or enhancing subjects on metadata is all an important part of making these discoverable. So I'm going to hand it off to Jamie to talk more about a specific application of that.
So
Did you want to just
I'm
start
going to
here?
talk about, yeah, thank you. So I'm going to be talking about View It. This was actually a tool that the creation of was funded through the Wikimedia Foundation through a Sloan grant for their Structured Data on Commons initiative. Dominic and I and Kevin Payrabi, aka User Super Hamster, if you're familiar with anyone's username, worked on this together. And if folks want to check it out while I'm talking, I would love that. And if you go to the link meta.wikimedia.org/wiki/viewit-tool, or you can go on Meta and search for it. You can add it to your user account. We have all the directions on there, very simplified, so it should be easy to add. Thanks, Giovanna, for putting the link in the chat. Next slide, please. So linked data is what makes View It run. All of the great metadata that Dominic showed you. Ben, thanks for that question. I am going to go ahead. It's all linked together. Structured data on Commons is Wikidata, but basically through the portal of Wikimedia Commons. And in just a moment, I'm going to get to a screenshot where you'll see that it says, like, if you click on one of these data points, it will take you to Wikidata, and you can look at it there. Part of the reason why I want to talk about View It today is it's a kind of a great way to double check that the metadata is working correctly, or to make sure that things are correct. It was one of the cool use cases that we found as we worked on this. But I'll I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll come back to that. But so with View It, it utilizes the linked data and specifically the depict statements for an image. And if you have View It installed on your web page, on your Wikipedia user account, it will create a carousel of images based on the article page that you're on, and it's through the depict statements. Next slide, please. So we made View It as a way to show editors and readers relevant Wikimedia Commons media depicting. It is different than categories. You will see a lot of overlap in what comes up in a category and what comes up on So one install will install View It on all web pages, and View It works across Wikipedia. So it will work on Wikidata, it'll work on Wikipedia, it'll work on Commons. If you're into like Wiki Voyage or any of the other smaller sister sites, it works across all of them. And I'll show you an example of what it looks like on Wikidata in just a moment. It looks the same across all the different projects of Wikipedia, but it has a slightly different functionality on Wikidata, which I'll share in a moment. So we made View It to kind of help making surfacing images easier, so that instead of having to figure out how to navigate and search Wikimedia Commons, if you already had View It installed, it would already show you the images related to the article that you're looking at. Our goal was to enrich content pages by offering an illustration of a given subject and increase the discoverability of Commons uploads. View It has proven really cool. You'll see a really interesting variety of pictures when you have it installed. Sometimes you may only see one, sometimes there's none. But a good example is like when you look at an institution, you might see pictures of the institution, but you'll also probably see items from their collections, especially if they have it synced to their institution, which again is some of the information that you can add on that linked data page when Dominic was showing kind of the side-by-side of your files and Wikidata. You can include things like what institution is the holder if it's in a certain collection. And our hope, part of the reason why we built View It too, was to encourage contributors that utilize Commons to add structured data so that people can find images more easily. It allows readers to access the full catalog of images available in Wikimedia Commons. Sorry for the typo. I pulled this slide from somewhere else. And the really I keep saying really cool things. I'm very proud of this work. And one of the things that another thing that View has been really great for is when you're on an article, you might only see one image or you'll only see a couple images, and they're curated by whomever the editor was at that time. But what's awesome is like sometimes a better quality image of the same image has been uploaded, and you can swap out something really grainy for a much more clear picture. I've done a lot of that work where they have found like a really pixelated thumbnail of an image that is publicly available. And they just found it somewhere online, and that's what's been uploaded. But when an institution then uploads their scan of it that's really clear, we can actually swap it out. And so it's still the same picture, it's just better quality. Additionally, it's just a great way to add more images to an article. For example, was working on an article about an author. They have a textbook, and the cover of their textbook there's an image of it through the Smithsonian, and we were able to add that to Wikimedia Commons because it was the first textbook about like Black studies. And so it's a really cool way to surface additional information and also to let readers and editors, for that matter, see more images than just the one that has been chosen by whomever for that article. Next slide, please. So you can add view it to your user account, or if you don't have a user account but you still want to access view it, you can go to view-it.toolforge.org and you can still search view it, and it will bring up images, and you would just look for if you know a Q number, you can copy and paste that in, or we do have free text where you could actually search the name and see what comes up. This is just kind of an external option to access view it without having to install on your user account. At the end, I'm going to let you all know the adoption of view it. And it's pretty cool. I do recommend using it because, and we'll see in just a minute the functionality of it and how you can look at it. But I highly recommend adding it to your account over using the web link. But if you really just don't want to have a Wikipedia account, it's still very useful. Next slide, please. So this is an example of what it will look like when you have View It installed. You'll see a View button on the right-hand side between the Read and Edit buttons. And that series of images at the top, that's View It. Those are all images where Ellen Isham Shute is either she's included in the depict statements as that image depicts her, or she's the creator. And so View It will pull a couple different things, mostly depicts, but it will also pull in items that like the person is marked as like the creator of. You can open and close View It. If you get like annoyed or something having it open, you can click the blue close button, and it'll still be there. You just won't see the carousel of images, and then you can open it again if you want to. One of the coolest functionalities of View It is when you hit edit, the carousel of images is still there, but all of the images will have a copy button in the corner, and you can copy and paste it into the Wikipedia article. That was another thing that was really important to us, that not only would this help people discover images easily, but also help them easily add them. If you're new to Wikipedia, adding images isn't necessarily difficult, but they can sometimes be hard to find through the insert function, and you may not always know how they're going to show up in the article, and being able to just copy and paste them makes it so much easier. And when you paste it in, you can double click and edit the caption. You can add in, more information. You can say like, this is Ellen Isham Shute and her colleagues at the Pomological Watercolor Society or whatever. And you can even add, from the collection of the Indianapolis Public Library. That's one of the things that I've done a lot with my work on Wikipedia, is adding more information to the captions on Commons. That is one thing that I've seen a lot with the DPLA uploads, is like the metadata is great, but maybe the automatically generated caption may not have enough context. And so that's a great opportunity for um, a quick edit. A great opportunity for volunteers to work on is just to go in and add some context to the captions on Commons. And I'll kind of show you where you can edit captions in just a moment. It's totally okay to add context and then mention like, this is from the collection of, the Indianapolis Public Library, or we at the National Agricultural Library, we had a couple very specific collections that were very popular. For example, the Pomological Watercolor Collection. And in that case, I might put, Pomelo drawing by Ellen Isham Shute from the Pomological Watercolor Collection at the United States Department of Agriculture, National Agricultural Library. I will, like, as an asterisk, it's super important that if you do that, the caption include other information and not just from the collection of. It needs to have some context as well. Just because it can look like it can be like a conflict to just list from the collection of and not have other information too. Next slide, please. So I wanted to show you kind of the power of View It. Helene is a local Indianapolis person, and we can't scroll down on this, but if you scroll down, it shows that she has a picture, but it doesn't show up in View It. So next slide, please. I went into Wikimedia Commons and I clicked on, you'll always see two tabs. You'll have file information and you'll have structured data information. Clicked on that structured data information, and lo and behold, for whatever reason, there was no depict statement. There's nothing that actually ties this image to Helena. And so I went ahead, since this is connected to Wikidata, you just start searching the person's name. If it doesn't come up, feel free to go into Wikidata and see if there's a different way that their name is listed in there. To be honest, I did not know that Helena had two middle names until I realized that her Wikidata item is like her full name. And so that I went into Wikidata to search and was able to figure out what I needed to type to pull up the Wikidata item. And so then I'll, next slide, please. After I typed it in, I clicked her name, and then when I'm done, I'm going to click the blue Publish Changes button. You can add a reference if you want to, like if you pull this, if this image was like from a certain publication, which it is, I could have added like a URL web reference or something, but you don't have to. If you want to change the captions like I was talking about, that's under the File Information tab, and there's just an Edit button next to Caption, and you would just type in the information and again, click the blue Publish Changes button. Next slide, please. And so I clicked Publish Changes, and now it's blue linked. This picture is now linked to the Wikidata item. And then next slide. I kept realizing that none of my images actually showed Helene. Here is Helene in case you're interested. And then it did take a couple minutes. Next slide, please. Oh, go back one. Is it not here? Okay, never mind. So stay on this slide for a second. I was trying to add, it did automatically show up and View It then. It did take a couple minutes because I had to clear my cache. But as soon as I went back to Wikidata and refreshed it, Helena's picture showed up and View It. So that's kind of the power of adding the structured data. It's pretty instantaneous. You can automatically go and find it. If you, in a later seminar, we're going to talk about having editathons in your preparation for an editathon. If you're like looking up an article you want someone to work on, or you know you have an image of a person, place, or thing, and it's not coming up and View It, you can go and edit the structured data and one, help it be findable in other ways, but also two, it'll pop up and View It to make it easier for editors to use. I'm really sorry that the Wikidata window isn't in here. I don't know why. I probably messed up saving it or something. I'm sorry. In Wikidata, View It looks very similar, but instead of, if a Wikidata item doesn't have an image statement, you will see a plus sign on the picture, and you can click it and it will automatically generate the P statement for you and add the picture automatically. When it has a picture statement on the item already, it'll have a copy button and you can add another one if you want to. That was some like later functionality of View It that we had, just to make it, again, super easy to do, like a really basic thing that's very helpful. Next slide. I just wanted to wrap up It has been a year since I pulled these stats. It's a little hard to do because you have to look in the source code about it. But we have 160 users of View It. They are all over the world, which I think is really cool. And View It is available in 25 different languages and over 5,000 edits, at least in 2024, have been made using View It. And that was growing exponentially. And so I have a feeling we're probably close to 7,000 now. But that's like what's so cool about View It is because it exists, it made it really easy for a lot of editors to add image statements to Wikidata. It has made it possible for smaller language versions to have pictures on articles for the first time. And so I really value the structured data on Commons and Wikidata and kind of updating the metadata pictures so that it just makes them more findable. And now I'm gonna pass on to Giovanna.
Thank you so much. I was wondering if I could share the slides, maybe, because I wanted to read the notes. I don't know if that's possible. Like,
Yeah, I think Dominic just has
Do
to
you want
stop
me to?
sharing.
Yeah.
sorry about that, and thank you.
Sorry.
Just a second. I think it's working. Yeah. So I think we were already introduced, but just again, I'm Giovanna Fontenelle. I work for the Wikimedia Foundation in a content enablement team. I'm a program officer that works with shared data, visual knowledge, museums in general. And I have been working with shared data for several years now. And so this presentation also makes sense. And I am together with Jamie, I'm part of the DPLA Wikimedia working group. And to be quite honest with you, it's a little bit tough for me to follow up Jamie's presentation because, to be quite honest, I will be presenting some similar games applications, but my favorite one is View It. So I think we have reached peak of our presentation, and this is just like some other ideas that we have, like some other things going on. And so this is just for context, this image here is depicting a lot of different medieval games. So I thought it was, funny for this presentation a little bit. And so I want to open by saying that in the Wikimedia ecosystem, we do have partnerships with heritage institutions, so like museums, libraries, archives, etc. And those initiatives, they usually go through this process that I usually say it's like a 5 step-by-step process. At first, we have this first step, which is, we call it partnership, where we establish the partnership between the institution and either the Wikimedia Foundation, but that's not very often, but especially with affiliates, which it's like chapters, user groups, and thematic groups that represent the Wikimedia ecosystem, but more in a kind of local aspect, right? And following that, we have the legal step, which is making sure that the files that you are working on, they are properly available. So checking their permissions, their license to make sure that it's either, public domain or they have, for example, a Creative Commons license and can be reused on the Wikimedia project. And then following that, we have this technical step, which is, cleaning and modeling the data and preparing the files so that they can be uploaded to the Wikimedia projects, right? So it's a very technical step where you usually use different tools for cleaning or uploading the files and the data. And that of course can be Like, for example, with the PLA is a different process because we have the PLA doing this part for like the network, right? So it's slightly different, but usually when it's just one institution kind of working with one Wikimedia affiliate, that's usually the process, right? And then following that, we have what we call the outreach step, which is reusing the files on Wikipedia articles, but also going a little bit beyond that, because of course, adding them to the articles, it's a lot. It brings a lot of views and put the institution and the object, the document, the artwork out there and really visible. But there are some other very interesting things that can be done. Like, for example, you can organize events and improve like all of the content related to like a single artist or a single movement in art, or like a specific topic. We do have, for example, in our like the ecosystem, a lot of gender and art related events. And so there are so many things that we can do in terms of events. We can also build lists of different topics. We can engage communities and people overall with the content from those institutions. And one of the things that are possible is to develop games to work with this part, which is I usually say that the games, the applications, they usually help with the fourth step, which is the outreach, which is putting the files out there, but also the metrics, because they sometimes help the organization, the institution, to measure the impact of this initiative, or they just find like other types of activities that you can do using the content, using the collections, right? And so for the presentation, I wanted you to have in mind that the fourth and the fifth step are the ones that are very important for this type of engagement that we are talking about in this presentation, right? But first, I wanted to, like, we already know a lot about Wikidata, Wikimedia Commons. Dominic and Jamie already talked about this. But one of the things that is possible to do with Wikidata is that we can use Sparkle queries. Queries is just like a way for you to ask questions to systems, right? And then like Wikidata, we have one that is called Wikidata Query Service. And so you can, from asking those questions, also visualize the data, not only in a list, but also with different visualizations. And so, for example, here we have a map. And this one, it's showing the place of birth of the most prominent artists from the Metropolitan Museum of Art. You can see, obviously, that you have a lot of artists from like one of the coasts in the US, and then a lot in Europe, and then some kind of spread around, right? So that's a very interesting way to interact with this particular collection, like this specific museum. Another example at the National Library of Wales, for example, is a visual demonstration of the data recorded that was converted to Wikidata. More specifically here, like, for example, it's the picked statements that Jamie already covered a lot. So the image description piece, right? Or, for example, this bubble chart, again, by the National Library of Wales, that use Wikidata to create some visualizations. And then in this case, this it's a bubble chart. It shows you the different descriptions that they added, that they had in their collection and were put into Wikidata. And they use this, it was like a collection of rare prints, right? And they use it to translate the labels that they had from English to Welsh, which apparently was something that they didn't have completely for this library before the initiative. This has been a few years, actually. Or even this Wikidata knowledge graph showing the Hudson River School depiction subjects as well. And it's kind of a shame that I cannot show you here how this works, but if you access this query, you would see that it moves a lot. It's very interactive, and you can see the different connections between images, and you can click on it and have like more information to appear, and you can, basically see how the different images, the like different content, how they connect, right? And I think one of the most kind of powerful things about shared data and museums and collections in general, and how they are put into the projects with proper structured data, is that you start to see connections where once before you cannot really see it or access those connections, right? So it's really nice to see this sort of thing. And then here in specifically talking more about games and or applications, sometimes in some cases the word game is a little bit of strong for like what is being proposed, but it is a game because it's asking, in a fun way for folks to improve metadata, right? And some of the games that I will be talking now, they use Wikidata, and they use the same kind of system that allows this. I don't know why this slide is different from the others. I'm sorry, but that allows the system to work, right? So, for example, this Wikidata Art Depiction Explorer, it is a game that this game, first of all, it doesn't work anymore. It's a game that has been a few years, and some of the examples that I'll be showing, they were developed to act on certain activities, like time bound, like for a specific activity and not follow up. But I want to show them anyway, because I think it's like the idea of building upon the collections is what is interesting here. So this is another layer of interactions that require some data and media files to be available on Wikidata already. The game usually utilizes our human ability of visualization and decision making to help libraries, archives, and museums to collect missing information about the artworks. All of the games from now on are basically about that. And in this case, the Wikidata Art Depiction Explorer, in it you are able to choose between topics, or in like more Wikidata terms, between properties such as movement, artists, collections. And here you can see a little bit more how some of the different collections from GLAM institutions and even department would show up. On the side, the page for the actual game, in which you could add information about what you can see in the image, and that information was automatically added to the depict statement on Wikidata. The same thing that Jamie was talking about before, and how she showed that, like it would appear there automatically as well. And then here we have a very similar game, the Wikidata distributed game depiction. This game also uses our decision-making abilities to confirm if the metadata from the institution is correct on Wikidata. So you would see the image, and for example here, say if depicts a bridge or not, and then you can add that information or just skip, right? And you can also say that it doesn't depict that, so like this would also be available, like an important piece of information, right, to be added or not, to be removed, right? And among its various games, the Wikidata distributed game depiction is like among all the games that we have in our ecosystem. This one is in particular very popular around 2019. It was used in the Tag That's It campaign at the Metropolitan Museum of Art after sharing part of its collection of Wikidata in 2018. The Met began subject keyword tagging project for artworks in its collection. And among other things, this allowed the museum to use the game to combine artificial intelligence and human judgment to build knowledge about art on a kind of global scale, right? And here, for example, some pictures of the game being played in computers available in the Great Hall at the Met in the Fifth Avenue in this event that they organized in 2019. Also, here is one interesting example by the Metropolitan again that exemplifies what I was talking before, this discovery potential and the connection potential of Wikidata. So with this all of this interaction that I described, the Met discover a new information. They discover how in the movie from 1946, Gilda, the dress wore by Heather Hayward, which was at the time, the most famous dress ever made, was actually inspired by the painting of the portrait of Madame X, which is from the museum collection. And like the museum didn't know about this information. Most researchers didn't know about this connection, and thanks to Wikidata and how it all connects, and initiatives like this tag initiative, they could make this connection and discover this new information, this gap that was there ready to be discovered, right? And another example of a Wikidata again, but a little bit of a Wikidata game, but a little bit outside of the global north. There is this very interesting game about by the Paulista Museum in Brazil, where I'm based at. I actually participate in the development of this. The institution here has one of the largest Islamic initiatives in the world, and a few games like this one, How Many, in which you can help to describe how many things are described. If it's one man, two men, one hat, two hats, you can add numbers to the descriptions, right? And for example, this other one, What Clothes Should I Wear? Both games, that one and this one, they use human experience to decide and complete the metadata available, asking participants to add the information about the quantity of objects in an image or the clothes used by the people in the media that they are depicted, right? And here are some of the other games that were developed, like what is it for, which brand, some coat of arms that you could help to identify as well, some ornaments, different kind of possibilities. And here we have this mix and match game, which is a tool that lists entries of some external databases that allows users to match them against Wikidata items. I chose to show here thesaurus because this is my research. My master's research was about thesaurus and Wikimedia, so I thought this one was very nice. And underneath here, there's this. There was this game that was prepared specifically for the International Museum Day competition in 2022, where you could have coordinators added, but no administrative unit. So you could also add that information during that particular campaign. Or for example, this image annotator tool that run image annotated campaigns on Commons. It was created to gather information from machine learning tasks, and it was based on the Wikidata image position. So the image annotator is the one on the right, and the Wikidata image position is the one on the left. There on the left, you can see it can help you to tag different buildings, for example, with their location, right? Their geo coordinates, right? There's also this WikiCrowd one, which is quick and easy micro contribution to the Wikispace, showing what images depict certain topics. Or this one, which was actually a call to action, a context by Wikimedia Argentina that uses the content from museums available on Commons and is asking people to build games with it, right? So there's also that possibility of, funding people to develop more things. And Commons also have some other games. This one, which is the ISA tool. This tool have campaigns available so that users and institutions can organize around Wikimedia Commons, and participants can choose the images that they want to add, share data, and captions in different languages. And this one, the picture, is also like 4 GLAMs using shared data, and has like a game-like interface, and add shared data statements to Wikimedia Commons using that interface, right? And I just, real quick before we end, I just want to add that, like, I am here representing the foundation, and even though we are not creating games, we have been investing a lot on this in between Commons and Wikipedia, and organizing, even like a few years ago, we organized several events that would help people to illustrate articles on Wikipedia using images from all images on Wikipedia, but we did those events for GLAM, for museums in specific, for libraries and museums. And we have been investing in that a lot because it's a very easy, light activity that anyone can do, just add images to Wikipedia, right? And so this is just an example how that worked. And like how people, this specifically was for mobile, right? So we are investing in trying to make this interaction in between images using shared data to suggest images on Wikipedia and just make it more illustrative, right? And so that was it for my presentation. I think I talked too much. I'm sorry. Let me just stop sharing.
Thanks so much. Yeah, I hope all of these give you an idea of the value of richly described metadata and ways to leverage linked data for discoverability on platforms like the Wikimedia projects. We have a few minutes for questions if anybody has any. And I know there was a couple of questions just about installing View It, so I'll just say out loud also the link that Giovanna put in the chat earlier in the hour. You can go to that. It's just on meta.wikimedia.org, and you can search for View It tool, and that will give you instructions once you have an account registered for using View It on any Wikimedia project, including Wikipedia or Wikidata. Thanks to Riva. Here's a question. I'll just read it out. Earlier, there was a question about the Wikidata database. Are there any concerns about scalability for the future with adding so many wonderful images? I think this is a valid question. Like I mentioned, we've done millions of uploads, and each one of those has like over a dozen statements, or really triple that with the claims, because they each also have a reference and qualifier. So that does really add a lot to the database, but so I think that there are people that are concerned about that, but I don't know that I have any more knowledge about that. Yeah, if you know more, Giovanna, please weigh in.
I mean, I can say that, like, for example, when DPLA is doing a lot of amazing, wonderful uploads, we need to know, for example, how much they are uploading per month so that we are prepared to receive that amount of data and prepare for that. But like, as far as I know, with images, there's not that concern that much. We have seen in the last, a few years an increase on accesses, especially not from humans. And so that's kind of more a concern right now. But on Wikidata, there is a little bit of a concern. And so, for example, they, with the, because a lot of people are uploading academic related researches and links and, things like that for Wikidata. And so they decided a while ago to separate that information. It's still connected, but for example, if you are going to use the query service, the Wikidata query service, you would need to use another one to access just those academic related researches out there, and then the rest of Wikidata, for example, just because it was too much at that point. But that's kind of, as far as I know, the only kind of main concern. But I don't know if in the future, maybe.
Yeah, and then also another question came in from Benjamin, asking, does DPLA add structured data as part of the bulk upload to Commons? And just to quickly address that, the answer is yes, mostly. It's not exactly part of the bulk upload process. There's sort of two different parallel processes, because when you do an upload to Wikimedia Commons, you can't actually add the structured data at the same time. And our current, just to get frank, our current grant funding, the metrics are more around number of uploads. And so we haven't, with DPLA's the transition of our cultural heritage program right now and our reduced bandwidth, we haven't done a refresh of the structured data for many months. But that is generally like the design of the program, is that everything that we're uploading is the data is being uploaded both as the formatted template you see on Wikimedia Commons and structured data statements. And with an eventual goal of that the structured data statements will actually be powering that that template. Cool. We've got 1 minute left if there's any last minute question. But otherwise, I think we can wrap it up there. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming. If you are interested in attending future webinars in this series, they are every second Thursday of the month through January. And you can go to events.dp.la to see the descriptions for the future ones and sign up there. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks for your great questions.